Well, good morning, and thanks for coming out. And thanks, Sid, for inviting me. So you're getting a personal session. From my suit, I can explain that I started my career as a navigator in the Air Force. So now that I call my business Navigating Finance, I can say my qualifications are that I've got the wings to prove it. In any case, I spent, after my Air Force tour, I finished a commerce degree and worked most of a 40-year career in the aviation industry, airlines, airports, government. But after retiring 5 years ago or so, I got recruited to financial planning. So I thought, that'll make a good retirement career, something completely different. I've recently retired from that again, so I'm no longer selling financial products. But I did, a couple of years ago, write a little book, The End of Work, Financial Planning for People with Better Things to Do. And the idea is the people I'm hoping to reach are those that appreciate that financial issues like insurance and investing and retirement are important, but totally mystified and just dealing with it by ignoring it for the most part. And my mission in life now under Navigating Finance is to educate people on the basics of financial literacy. So even if you still use a financial planner, ideally by the hour, as opposed to on commission, so you never know what he's selling you is to get a big commission or what you really need. So this way, one of the things I'm doing is offering seminars and counseling. So this morning we're going to give you a preview of one of my seminars that we call Managing Money. And it's in honor of the group. It's got a small business focus today. But the basics I'm talking about are really fundamentals for small business, big business, or your personal business. What are the elements of managing money? Well, first of all, you have to have something to manage. So we go and get an education, get a job, improve ourselves, and so on. But once you've got a cash flow established in your small business, then you have to worry about managing it. But managing it isn't all of the puzzle. Not only do you have to manage your cash flow and your income and your outgo and make sure that it stays positive, you've got to worry about the risk to your income, because what can go wrong will go wrong, and you need to be prepared. Now, I like to talk about the 3 keys to business success, and you've probably all heard the old joke about location, location, and location. It's probably a real estate story. And a location that brings you traffic is really important to business success, but it's not the key thing. The key principle of the key to success is cash flow, and cash flow. And the key to cash flow is spend less than you make. I'd like to say I'm quoting my favorite economist, Charles Dickens. Usually considered an economist when you talk about income 20 pounds, expenditure 19.6, result happiness. Income 20 pounds, expenditure 20 and 6, result misery. You've got to keep your cash flow positive. And that's not easy because there's never enough to go around, which means we have to set priorities. Now, what are these priorities? The first priority in your life or your small business is generating a revenue. So you might have some wonderful esoteric ideas about new business lines you want to make, you want to develop. My advice is start with the low-hanging fruit. You're worried about cash flow. Take those things you know the best, that are the most popular, and get that cash flow going. Sell what you know. Particularly when you're looking at markets, where places and groups where you already have a connection, a commonality. The second key to managing money is controlling your costs on the outgo side. That means making a plan. Yeah, it's a dirty word, budget. But you do need a plan, and you need to stick to that plan. And key to sticking to that plan is only spend what you really need to spend. There's the old adage about you have to spend money to make money. But I see that chicken and egg as make some money so you have something to reinvest in developing your business. So it's just the order of which came first. Cash flow comes first. The next part is keeping track. There's three things a manager has to do. You have to make a plan, decide where you're trying to get to, what resources you've got to work with, how you're going to do it, your action plan. Then you have to execute that plan and do every day, week, month what you were planning to do. Procrastination is the big enemy there, of course. But the third task of management is you have to measure. You have to measure the results. Find out if your execution of your plan achieved the plan. And that's the function that's most often neglected, whether we're talking about our personal finances or our small business. It does need a budget, and a lot of people think budget's a really dirty word, that it's some kind of straitjacket. It's not. It's a plan. And you don't have to give yourself 20 lashes with a wet noodle just because your plan doesn't work out exactly as you had hoped. The whole point of a plan in measuring is so you can go back at the end of the month and the end of the quarter and look at where you did not achieve your plan and analyze what the reason is and the cost and take corrective action. An example I use in my book is on the list of personal priorities is some mad money. Well, maybe one month you blow your mad money on a trip, clothes, a concert, something that blew not only this month's mad money, but next month's too. If you've measured it and you've taken corrective action to say, well, I've already spent next week's money, I'm going to have to forego that event, concert, whatever, and get yourself back on track and make sure you're paying off that credit card by the due date in full. Next, we got the risk to your income. You know, the famous line, whatever can go wrong will go wrong, and at the worst time in the worst way. Actually, it was my friend Brian that discovered this for me. I hadn't appreciated it before, even though it's in the business, that the quotation is attributed to a guy named Edward Murphy, who was an aeronautical engineer back in the 60s working on safety systems. That give you a little pause the next time you're getting on an airplane. When you're looking at your assets, we wouldn't think anything of buying property insurance on our store or our factory, insuring our delivery vehicles, everything else. But the most valuable asset you have is your income. That cash comes back to that cash flow. What can happen to screw up that cash flow, and how can you protect it? Because if you look at it over the life of your career or your business, even as little as $50,000 or $100,000 a month or a year cash flow over 30 years at a modest interest rate is a present value asset of a couple of $1 million. You know, you've got to manage that. Now, how do you manage risk? And you get into, and I explain a bit of it in the book, my more recent part of my aviation career was all about safety management systems. And the basic idea is that instead of waiting for something to happen and then reacting to it, you follow Mr. Murphy's direction and expect something to happen, and you proactively think about what could go wrong and what can I do about it. You have that contingency plan to, first of all, you make recognize what could go wrong, and you take steps to minimize the possibility. Safety training for your employees, things like this. But secondly, you have emergency safety plans for what are you going to do if risk does occur in order that you minimize the impacts. And again, you have employees with first aid training of the safety features in this factory, of the first aid kits and so on. You have the established procedures that everybody's trained in. So that's the first part. The second part, and this is another good aviation analogy, is having an alternative. If there's a key facility or asset or people that generate the cash flow that your business depends on, then you have to have an alternative if anything happens to it. Alternative premises if you have to set up this temporary shop. Ideally, if you've got a fleet of 10 delivery vehicles, you've got an 11th vehicle that might be scheduled for maintenance but is available to fill in if something breaks. And another key idea is cross-training employees. So if you're a small business with half a dozen people, instead of having all 6 people in a specialized niche and that's the only job they know how to do, have them trained and experienced to do the job for the guy before them and the guy after them, so that if something happens to somebody, you can fill in and cover. And finally, buy insurance for what you can, because that's the cheapest form of risk management, where you're using insurance cash to compensate for the loss of cash flow. And that can be key person insurance, partner insurance, group benefits plans, and so on. So managing money and taking care of business is all about start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. And one really good way to start is I encourage people to, for a modest $15, you can buy this handy little book that in a couple of hours read will give you the basics of financial literacy and make the whole idea of financial literacy is to give you the confidence in making your financial choices.